Hello, welcome back to Bebop Review. My name's Andy Shaw. This is a new series. Basically, somebody asked me ages ago to go through the Owen motives, the Thomas Owen motives in his dissertation on Charlie Parker. Now, I've got the motives here. There's pages and pages on them. But what we'll do is I'm going to look at Charlie Parker in the early days and see if we can see some development of his playing from the motive point of view. From like the J. McShane Orchestra onwards. So I'm just looking at a selection of solos, and then we'll look at how Charlie Parker plays. The first one I'm going to be looking at, the first motive, is basically the simplest from what I can see, and it's this one here. It's M1F. See here, this one here. Let me zoom in on it. It's this one here. As you can see, Thomas Owen has actually written it down in A flat. I think I know why he's done that. It's a bit complicated to try and explain it. But what happens is, it seems to appear in an alto saxophone, this particular motive, in F. It plays it a lot on F. So I think because of that, concert from F on alto sax is A flat. So I think that's why Thomas Owens wrote it down as A flat here. It's an A flat, basically an A flat major triad that goes back to root and ascending, right? Now it doesn't have to go back up to root. It's just an A flat, or it's basically a major triad, right? That moves. I mean, this root going back up to the root is one way of it actually resolving, but it can actually go anywhere. You know what I mean? So we'll have a look at this particular one. So this is M1F, what we're looking at, the very simplest and one of the very earliest motives that Charlie Parker used in his very first recordings, which were the Wichita recordings. They went into a studio in Wichita, Kansas, and made some recordings for a radio station that played on the radio and broadcast to people. Okay, so this is from 1940. So Charlie Parker is 20 years old at this time. Okay. I think this is the first recording that Charlie Parker made with the J. McShane band. This is one of the Wichita recordings, the transcriptions for radio. But it is a studio recording. We're classing this as a studio recording because he went to the studio and recorded it to be played on the radio. It wasn't a live performance playing to an audience. So this is one of the first studio recordings. It's what we're looking at is this here. It's on the 18th bar. Let me zoom in on it. Okay, so this is the first time I think Charlie Parker actually plays this in a studio recording, and it's the first triad we're looking at is this one here. It's M1F in a way. It's probably a motive this, but we're looking at a basic triad. It's E, G sharp, B, because that's a G sharp there, so it carries on in this bar. And it's approached by a fifth, right? And it resolves by steps. That's the first thing you need to know. That a triad, right? Charlie Parker plays a basic triad, right? Not a seventh chord out like that, or sixth out. Basic triad. It can start on a fifth, right? And it drops by a step down to this A. Here it's dropping down to this A. Now this ends up becoming developed because what happens is this can also be played pretty much the same way, but instead of approached by a fifth, it approached by a sixth. So that B would be a C sharp when we talk about E. So from E to six would be a C sharp, wouldn't it? Now that E to C sharp, I think, is a more advanced riff, and I'll just show you why. Okay, so now I'm looking at Serpient's Bounce, which recorded later. These, if you look at this thing where I put at the top, K, what it is it's to give me, it's to identify these tunes for me, because what I've done, I've wrote that down these lines, and they're related to numbers. It's like when you go to play in a band, like say playing a big band, you don't, the guy who's the leader doesn't say to you, oh, we're playing like all the things you are now, and now we're playing, you know, night and day. What he'll do is say, play number 1, play number 3. And what it is the musicians have got the music all laid out, so it's very easy to find number 3, so they're looking for a title, you see. And it's just the same here. That's why I've put them Ks. It's just so high, can flick between one and the other, because I've written down where to find these things, you see. So I'll just tell you why that number's there. Right, so now I'm looking at this, and I think this is more advanced. We've got the arpeggio again. We've got G7 chords, so it's G, B, D. That's the arpeggio, so that's M1F type thing, the basic arpeggio. But look, it's being approached by a 6, because G to E is a 6. G, A, B, C, D, E. And look what's happened. What's happening now is this line is going from F to E, and then it's going to D, right? And then to C, can you see? Then to that B flat. So this line is actually part of voice leading line, isn't it? Now it's interesting that when I showed that other one, which was the first recording that he made with Jay McShane at Wichita, and this is one of the later studio recordings, this is more advanced than the early one. He played that early line, which was going D to D. Can you remember when I was talking about, if you watch my videos regular, you remember I talked about Chad LB. He put some lines on, and they're going from D like that, but they're going from D to D, which Charlie Parker played early on in his career, and he probably played them later on. I haven't looked that closely. But it's funny that as we go on through Charlie Parker's apprenticeship from being 20 to 21, just in that 1 year, Parker was starting to do voice leading lines. This is one of the big things about Charlie Parker. Charlie Parker's voice leading is fantastic. There's nobody in jazz can compare with him, I think. And this line now, by being changed from that 6 going up there, dropping to that D, is bringing in this fantastic voice leading, what Charlie Parker does. And you can see here, look, you're going from F, and clearly see now this is running down, look, to that F, to that D, to that C, to that B flat, and then it just finishes on C. You've got really good voice leading, which is what Charlie Parker's playing is all about. There's quite a few other things that you see that are different in Charlie Parker's playing, even within the Jay McShane band, as he actually goes on. In fact, just over a year, his music is starting to develop and getting better. I know a lot of people have said to me, Charlie Parker's a great player when he started playing straight away, in his early years. But I can see that his playing starts changing. He wasn't as good. And I won't say he wasn't as good when he first started, but what he was doing is he was playing things in a swing era type of way. I mean, swinging era music's great, isn't it? You know what I mean? But as you see him playing, his playing changes into what we consider to be now a more bebop-y way, things that are done more in bebop, and that is one of them. Changing that to a 6, dropping in from a 6, brings voice leading, and that is one of the main things that identifies Charlie Parker, great voice leading, which we didn't see in that early we didn't see in the early solo. Let's go back to it. You see here, this bit here, you see here is going from B to B. If you look at Parker's voice leading, it's going B, and then it's run up to B, and then it's run up to B, and then B, and then A, and it kind of like goes down to G and E. See, voice lead is not as good. This solo sounds all right, but it's more kind of like swing era type music than it is. His influence is definitely more swing era stuff than it is his more later modern jazz when him and Dizzy Gillespie started to play together. So the first thing I should say then is Charlie Parker plays. I mean, it's up to you how you want to practice these. I've actually wrote some. I wrote some lines down. And by the way, I wrote some lines. Let me show you these lines. Right, I wrote these lines down and I put them on. I put them on my Facebook page, but I'm looking at a PDF now, which I did, but I can't put PDFs on Facebook unless I've got a business thing, and I don't want to pay for a business thing. You know what I mean? This is just an amateur thing I'm doing. So, but I've put these lines, and I've corrected them, by the way. When I first put them on, I actually made a mistake because I started some in 3/4 and I forgot to flick, so it kind of did it. It made a bit of a mess on it, but I've corrected it and put them on now. If you look, see let me see, major fifth above. Right, this is the one I've just been showing you. A major fifth above and then running down to major fifth. Now, this is what Charlie Parker did in that early solo, but as he got on, he moved. But you can practice that because Charlie Parker obviously knew how to play it. So I've put these practice lines down. But Parker then went to 6, third. Just trying to see. And then he went to this, you see, which is a 6, which is a better line. Because if you look, you see you've got that voice leading from that A to G. So that's a more advanced line. So I would say if you're practicing these and you want to get into it, this is basically the later type line. And that earlier one, which is there, let me just go back to it. That one there, from the 5th above, is an earlier line, which is, it's not quite as good, but it's still all right. I mean, it's more swing type based, that, and it drops down. But I put them in, you know, it's up to you to whether you want to learn them or what. But I've put all those in. I think playing anything is good practice, you know what I mean? These lines will get you into Charlie Parker's fingering. So they're on my Facebook page. I put them in a separate sheet, but you can go and have a look at them. So let's go back to solo. Right, so that's the only arpeggio in that one, just that one there, that one. You know, I'm saying arpeggio. No, it's not the only arpeggio, but it's the only one that is M1F, which is the basic triad. So we'll have a look at some other examples of this. So I'm looking now on Moten Swing, right? And this is another Wichita transcription, Wichita, Kansas, which was recorded in 1940. And you can see that Parker's approaching it by a changing tone, which is quite advanced because he's coming in from the top and then he's half step leading. Right, this solo looks very diatonic, but that's pretty advanced, that. And then we've got the arpeggio here, F, A, C, and then he's resolving on the F, you see, which is a 4th up. So it's a 4th resolved. I'm just trying to think. I think there's another one here. Yeah, there's one here as well. Can you see? This is the opposite way around if you look. You've got that is more like a classical changing tone. It's leading to this. I mean, we've got the rhythm changing different, but it's still an arpeggio. Can you see? F, A, C, and then it goes to F in that bar there. But again, it's coming in from a changing tone, but this is more like a classical changing tone, and it's a step above that F. So we've got F, G. So you've got half step below and a step above. You know what I mean? To get to the arpeggio, and then he's playing the arpeggio in a, well, it's like a melodic figure, isn't it, to get to that F, you know what I mean? So I think that's all there is on that. Okay, so I'm looking at Lonely Boy Blues here. This is another studio recording. I'm with James McShane Band. And the arpeggio is just here. It's an F arpeggio, can you see? F root. So, but this one is starting from the 3rd, so it's kind of like in first inversion. So it's good. So the F would normally be there, but he's starting from the A, so A, C, F. I'll tell you something that I've seen about this in old Charlie Parker's arpeggios, right, in this M1F, and that is that if he plays an inversion, that is, he's not starting from the root, he always doesn't approach by anything. He starts with a space and then it's a running. Do you see what I mean? So this is in first inversion, or it's basically from the 3rd up to this. So where does it go? So what I'm saying is that Charlie Parker, when he starts off on the 3rd, right, to play an M1F, that is the basic triad, when he hits the top, it resolves, the next note that is always a major 3rd. Without any doubt whatsoever, it's a major 3rd. He don't go anywhere else, right, in these first J. McShane recordings, okay? So that's something to see about, and I've actually put that in the little exercise that I've given you, and I've actually written down how he resolves. So he resolves there by major 3rd. So I think there's another one in here. So if you look at this, there's another one here, another arpeggio. This one's C major, isn't it? C, E, G. This is one in from 5th, so it's in 2nd inversion. It's from the 5th of the chord. So we're moving from the 5th up to the 3rd, and then the resolution is by a step, or it's by a minor 3rd upwards. It goes up a step, so up a half step, right? So E to F, or it could go from E up a minor 3rd to G. And that's the same. That's the rule for that arpeggio when it's in second inversion or from the fifth, right? Okay, so I'm looking at Serpian's Bounce now. I want to look at this one. You can see that this is basically exactly the same as the last arpeggio solo, which was on Lonely Boy Blues. This is a C major triad from fifth, from second inversion from fifth, and it's resolving exactly the same as the one in Lonely Boy Blues, which is by half step. Can you see? And again, we don't have anything before it's played. And this is what you get with any triad arpeggio that Charlie Parker plays. If it's not in first, in root position, if it's in first inversion or second inversion, then it will not play anything before it starts off. So you only play basically an arpeggio that is in root position if the music's flowing. You want to carry it on. Okay. We have another one on Serpian's Bounce, as you can see down in bar 23. This is approaching by a half step from below. It's in root position and it's resolving by a fourth. G, A, B, C, by a fourth, which I've already put this rule down. So that's basically M1F in Charlie Parker's early music. We can look at this as we go on, but I really want to concentrate on how Charlie Parker first started playing. There's some really interesting stuff in these early solos, and you can see how Charlie Parker's playing changes, which we'll see as we go through these little riffs in his early playing. But that'll keep you going. So if you have a look at what I said, and I might put copy these transcriptions and put him on the Facebook page so you can actually look at them yourself. So it's very interesting, these early solos, that you see that Charlie Parker's very early solos with Jay McShane, you don't. I mean, it plays all right. I mean, and you can listen to it and you think, oh, that's really good. But you don't get that fantastic voice leading you get later on. And some of the way he plays his lines, which become his trademark patterns, are played wrong, in my opinion. And he must have known that there are a better way of playing it, so he changes and it becomes more what we associate with bebop later on. It's really fantastic. Just watching how his mind is actually working on these things out. So I'll leave it at that for now, and we'll carry on with this. We'll carry on with these patterns later on. I have to write these little exercises out for you for practice. Because I've showed you these rules now that Parker does. Basically, I have put them on the sheets. You can make up your own lines if you want. I just made those lines up it took me about an hour to do those lines, believe it or not. It weren't writing the lines out, that were easy. It were messing about in Sibelius and trying to think how we're going to actually lay it out, all that kind of stuff. That takes longer than how else. So I'll leave you to it. I'll let you have a go at playing about with them yourself. Okay, bye.